Alright folks, let's come on over to our C10 here, see what kind of progress we got going on. I think we making a little more progress. We'll have to see here. Making videos like crazy on this thing. See what we got? Well shoot. We got a head back on there. Got the valve cover I'm going to run eventually. It's looking good. Now it's not torqued down to spec yet. I've run all the bolts down and got all that done. I got to torque everything down and do it in 3 steps. And I think they torque down to about 65 foot-pound. You always want to start in the center and go out. That way it spreads the load out evenly. And it just makes it, that's the right way to do it. So I'm running all the bolts down for now. And I got to take and dig out my torque wrench here and torque this thing down. We'll do it in 3 steps. So we'll take 65, divide that by 3, and then we'll do it in those 3 steps, and we'll double check our work, and I think we'll be good. But I just threw them plugs back in there for now so that it doesn't get no water or trash or anything down in it. But got this side almost wrapped up. I'm gonna throw another coat of paint on it when it's all done. But it's getting there. We're not gonna reuse them plugs. I probably will once I get it fired up just to run it. But after I run it and we bring it up to operating temperature and all that good stuff, we're gonna pull them out, and I'm gonna do a little research. I'm gonna see if I can find the best plug to put in this thing, because I know it's a 305. It's a turd anyway, but every little thing we can do to kind of help it out, that's what I want to do. But so this side is pretty much done. I actually painted this motor Ford red at the time. It's either Ford red or that's Chevy orange red. I can't remember. I think it's actually Ford red. But yeah, we're going to paint it back the Chevy orange, the correct color. But, well, for this motor, for this truck, it'll be the correct color, but for the motor, it was actually originally black. This is a 86 305. I've been telling everybody wrong about it this whole time, but it's actually a early 86 is what it is. It's not an 84, it's not an 85, it's actually a early 86 model. But we come over here and we got some work cut out for us yet, so I got the top of the pistons and all that cleaned up on that side as good as I could get them. And I got to come over this side and get all this cleaned up here. And get all that addressed. And it's still got cross hatching in it and everything. But we're going to clean this side up. And get the other head bolted down. And get everything snugged up. And I gotta clean the back of that block, get all that RTV off our china wall back there. Address all that. And I got a little something special for this intake here. I'm gonna show you. Alright, so I got a little surprise for y'all. So here we are. Take a look at that intake gasket there. We're gonna take and we're gonna run that gasket, and we're getting rid of our exhaust crossover. Want to get rid of that. That'll eliminate all that heat and all that exhaust and all that garbage and carbon and everything else coming right back through our aluminum intake and clogging it up and all that other stuff. But you don't really need that, to be honest. Even though this is a carbureted motor, you really don't need it, to be honest. I mean, if you think about it, the newer models like the Vortex and all that, they don't even have this. It's not even cast in the Vortex heads. They don't even use that. My Durango does not even have that. And I got to thinking about that kind of hard, and I'm going to start running these particular style intake gaskets because I think that's going to help tremendously. Now, during the winter, all that exhaust crossover is all that heat is supposed to help heat up the carburetor a little bit and help it kind of run a little bit better, kind of smooth out a little bit. But, I don't really think, in my opinion, you really need it. Now my 283, of course, has that, and it actually has, my Edsel has it too, but it actually has on the exhaust manifold. I'm gonna go over to this other one here. So usually it's on the passenger side, but it has a little opening in it. This is the driver's side, but it has a little opening down here, and what it is that heats up. It's a little kind of damper kind of, I guess you would call it. It opens up once it gets enough heat built in it, and then it'll let the exhaust flow completely. And that's something else I don't like. We're going to get rid of that too, because you really don't need it, in my opinion. And this truck never had that anyway to begin with. It might have when it was new, of course, but I think that's, you know, it's going to let the exhaust flow a lot more better, and it'll let it flow more freely. It won't be so restrictive here. Usually it's on the passenger side, but I'm going to delete that. Of course, it's already, this truck didn't have it anyway, so it really doesn't matter. But we're also going to get rid of the exhaust crossover right there. We're going to block that off, and I think it'll help big time. Now, the gaskets ain't perfect, but I think they'll work. I took a micrometer, measured out the ports, and this is the closest gasket I could get. It's not lined up completely on there. It's actually, I can line it up a little bit better, I think. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but I think it'll work. I don't know why it wouldn't. Might help get the camera the right way. But, I mean, it's not perfect. You can tell the big difference between like a 350, the ports on a 350 and a 305. Good Lord, I mean, you can really tell. There's no way you could port it out that much. I mean, that's a lot of meat to take out. But, you know, I'm not going to do that. But they'll work. This will serve its purpose, because we want to block it off there. And the only thing I'm kind of wondering is if we block it off like that, kind of wondering over time if all that heat hitting that gasket where it's blocked off is going to eventually burn through. But I don't know. We'll have to see on that. They do make restrictors on here. It'll let a little bit of exhaust flow through, but it won't let it completely flow through. So, but I want to block it off entirely. And if you look at the newer, like heads, aftermarket heads, like dart heads and all that, they don't even have the exhaust crossover at all cast into them. And of course the Vortex don't either. But I think that'll help. I was kind of reading on that, and I mean, either way, I think it's going to help no matter what, because it'll keep all that carbon, all that trash from getting all inside the intake, and it'll keep the intake a little bit cooler, I think. And you know, we got manual choke on this truck. I'm a manual choke fan. I hate electric choke. I don't like electric choke. I don't like vacuum choke, and I don't like the I guess you would call it heated choke as well, where it's got a tube off your exhaust manifold and it kind of heats it up. And some of them work off like a vacuum too, but I don't like any of that. I'm not a fan of any of that. In my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, I like an old school manual choke where you got a cable, you pull it out, you can control it all on your own. You push it in once it's, you know, running a little bit, smooth out a little bit. To me, that's the best choke, in my opinion. And I'm almost kind of at the point where I almost want to run no choke at all, because this truck, I've never run choke on it. It might be on the carburetor itself, but you know, I've never, even in cold weather, I just pump it a couple times and it fire right on up. And I might, you know, have my foot just a little bit on the gas, you know, give a little gas, you know, smooth it out a little bit. But, you know, I don't sit there and go, you know, like all these other crazy people on YouTube. You know, I give a little gas, maybe run, I don't know, 1,000 RPM, something real low. It's not going to hurt. It gives it time to get oil pressure, you know, get all the oil and everything pumped back up and all that stuff. It's hard on it. But I mean, I ain't running no choke at all, and I'm kind of debating on that. You know, performance. This is what I'm looking at, is performance, if I want to just do away with the choke completely too. But I know this exhaust crossover, getting rid of that's going to help tremendously. And of course, our exhaust manifolds don't have that valve, damper, whatever you want to call it. It never had it anyway. It might have had it when it was brand new, but it didn't have that anyway. So all the exhaust on this truck will be flowing more kind of freely, in my opinion. And I know, like in the 80s and all that, the exhaust crossover, GM had that in there, and it had that EGR valve, and it would take all the exhaust gases and all that, and it would flow it right back through and reburn all that stuff. And in my opinion, that's, you're sitting there burning all that garbage, and it's going right back through it. And to me, that build's carboned up fast. I might be wrong on that, but we're trying to do, this is something fun to do. We're trying to do every little thing we can do. It's a lot more I could do, but just little things like this, I'm hoping will kind of help this motor a little bit. I mean, it's just a little, turd 305, but I mean, anything will help. Because when I pull this motor out, we're going to get a cam for it. When I say cam, I'm not going to sit there and get some huge monster cam for it. We'll probably just get a cam that's a little bit bigger than stock, and that way it'll match our valve springs, of course, and just freshen it up a little bit more, because I want to throw a new cam in it, new set of lifters, and get everything kind of freshened up a little bit. But you got to watch on the cam on these motors and all that, because I've been told, and I kind of believe that, as small as these cylinder walls are, this is only a 3 by 3/4 inch bore. That's it. This is the smallest bore motor that Chevrolet has, is a 305. And believe it or not, a 283 is a 3.875 bore. It's a little bit bigger, but those you can punch them out to a 4-inch bore. But a 283 has a bigger bore, but a shorter stroke than this 305. Then the only really, truly difference between a 305 and a 350 is the bore. It's exact same stroke as a 350. It's got turd heads on it that don't really kind of breathe good to kind of choke it out, as you can see. I mean, you can kind of tell. It's no way you can pour it that much out. You take way too much and you'll run into the coolant jackets, and I mean, it's no way. I would not want to match them heads to that gasket there. You ain't gonna have enough meat. But that's really the only true difference between the 305, other than the heads being kind of smog heads and, kind of turd heads, and the bore being small. Everything else is the exact same. You can take this crank and these rods and swap the pistons out and throw them over in a 350 if you want, and it'll bolt right up. The journal sizes are all the same, and it's just a bore. Really, if you ditch this block and get a 350 block, you can reuse everything, but then it'll be kind of choked out because of the ports there. But your compression will go up because these heads got smaller combustion chambers, and that's really the only difference, honestly. But, and of course, all 305s, for now I've read, now don't quote me, have hardened seats. So that makes it nice. But these are the few things we're doing here. We're going to run roller tip rocker arms. We're going to get rid of the exhaust crossover. Hopefully it don't, blow that gasket out over time. We'll see how it works out. And it should help. I mean, it definitely ought to be a little noticeable. Get the exhaust a little more free flowing and kind of get some of the heat out of the motor a little bit. I think it'll help it, honestly, as a performance perspective. I mean, any little thing, this is, like I said, it's a turd, but anything will help, Anyway, that's where we're at. So we got one side pretty much about, let's say, 75% done. I gotta go back and torque the head bolts down and all that good stuff. We're gonna get rid of all this trash under here too. When I say trash, these transmission lines, we're gonna throw all that garbage away, and I'm gonna go get some 5/16, because that's what these are, and I'm gonna bend it up a little bit neater, and well, more than a little bit. We're gonna straighten all this basket case stuff up in here, because as soon as you open the hood on this thing, that's the first thing you see, and it just looks like garbage. We're gonna get rid of all that mess there, and then I'm gonna figure out what I want to do with this mess with the heater box. I really don't like it. But we're going to clean up this underneath this engine bay here a little bit. Get rid of all this disaster mess. But one thing between the F-150 frame and this frame that I did notice, if you notice, look how wide it is between there, and then if you come up here, it kind of starts getting narrow. The frame, I guess you would say, tapers. So I'm going to do a little measuring, and the wheelbase is almost the same as the F-150, like a 87 to 92, for example. Don't know about the 93 up, but this frame kind of tapers a little bit in the front here. So I have to do a little measuring, because we want to retain our original steering column, and we want to keep, of course, our bumper and all that. We can make brackets for that, but basically we're going to take this body and just pick it up and sit it on a four-wheel drive F-150 frame. That's pretty much the whole point. But I got to do a little research on that, but the frame does have a little taper to it. But anyway, hope you liked the videos, and definitely getting there.